Hey, do you want to come over and make a pot of tea, bring your favorite crystals? We could talk about our birth charts, spirits, the latest house spells we've been doing. Welcome to the neighborhood. I'm that witch next door. Hello, neighbor. Welcome back to another episode of That Witch Podcast. If this is your first time here in our witchy little neighborhood, hi, welcome. I'm Danny. I'm that witch next door. I'm going to be your host, your guide, your mentor, your spiritual bestie in all things modern witchcraft and cosmic living. And today is a very fun day because we are doing another simple magic episode, which is essentially my take on a specific type of spell or ritual, how I've used it, come to understand it, and hopefully offer a little bit more information, a little bit more inspiration for you to take this into your life and unique witchcraft practice. And today is all about herb sachets. So if you have never heard that word sachet before, but you've read it before, it looks like the word sachet. It is actually pronounced sachet. Don't feel bad at all. I pronounced it the incorrect way for a very, very, very long time. And that's why I always give that special little reminder for anybody who may be hearing that word for the first time and they've only read it ever before. But it is an herb sachet. And what is an herb sachet? Well, it's essentially a little pouch of magic. These are just little bundles of joy, if you will. They could be bundles of whatever intention you create them with. And there's lots of different ways to utilize them, but they are an incredibly diverse, open canvas in magic and witchcraft for you to play around with. Now, last week, I did an episode all about getting started in magical herbalism. That is an excellent place to start. If you haven't caught that episode before, make sure you do check that out because it's going to provide a lot of really, really helpful context for approaching the energy within herbs and hopefully inform you in a way that helps you trust your intuition even more, maybe feel a little more comfortable getting creative with this process. And then check out this episode, this video, all about creating and working with little herb sachets, little pouches of magic. So there are many ways that I have personally used an herb sachet. For myself personally, I've used these for the whole time I've been practicing witchcraft on purpose. And when I think back to before that time, there's probably other little ways I was making herb sachets. For example, I was making altars before I realized they were really altars. And that stems all the way back to my childhood. But by no means was I raised in witchcraft by any means. I think that there's some magical, witchy connection throughout my family and lineage as I've kind of delved back for myself, but no one in as far back as I can tell in the generations was practicing witchcraft on purpose by any means. If this is the same for you, you may have found yourself making little bundles already. These are often just a little collection of intentionally selected items or ingredients that have a common purpose, a common desire, or common goal attached to each of them. I have found that perhaps the most common, I mean, that's kind of a bold statement, but I feel relatively confident making it. I think that quite possibly the most commonly sought after purpose of creating an herb sachet is protection. I have found that whether or not we were practicing magic on purpose or not yet, the act the instinct and then the act of protecting oneself is very often some of the earliest, most common ways that we were reaching for magic and ritual without even potentially realizing that's what we were doing. And when I look back, there were definitely times in my life that I would make a little collection, a little thing to bring with me, a little emotional support package, if you will. I didn't know it was a sachet at the time, but once I started practicing magic on purpose and learning about witchcraft and learning about ritual, and I learned what an herb sachet was for the first time, it was definitely one of those little ritual activities that just made sense. I in my witchcraft practice, some of the most significant times that I've used an herb sachet, the one that came to mind instantly was when I was giving birth. So among my little hospital bag preparations for myself, as I was getting ready to go into labor, I was not only selecting items for just my hospital stay and some self-care, but I reached for some witchy goods as well. And I did a little bit of research and asked around about crystals and colors associated with childbirth and protection of children and protection of mothers and the honoring or the sanctity of labor and delivery. There's there's quite a bit out there pertaining to those things, because in many ancient cultures, uh, medicine men and women, shamans, healers, witches, practitioners were midwives and doulas and those responsible for delivering babies. So there is quite a bit of magic and ritual and a lot of magical correspondences and items and different traditions associated with childbirth and labor and again the protection of child and mother. So this was something really special that I did preparing for labor for myself. And I got a couple of crystals and I made some herbal diffuser. So I used little cotton like pom-pom balls and picked some different essential oils specifically for aromatherapy, which is something that I am very sensitive to in a helpful way with the right smells. So I'm sensitive to it in the worst ways if it's smells that bother me or overwhelm me. But lavender, I'm like your basic bitch when it comes to lavender. And that is just one of my favorite comfort, helps me like get really present and just focus in the moment on the smell, kind of let go of other distractions. I think that I had incorporated mint and rosemary. That's one of my favorite little scent blends is lavender, mint, and rosemary. I'm pretty sure that was the trifecta I chose for my little diffuser. And I included that in the sachet. And then I included some dried lavender as well. The bag that I used, the little pouch itself, I used a bag that was very breathable so that I could, actually smell the essential oils and the dried herbs in there. But it was small enough that I could keep it on near or around me throughout the entire process or at any point in the journey that I needed. Other really like regular default or go-to times for me that I'm making an herb sachet is travel. So I do get a little bit of travel anxiety. Nothing debilitating, thankfully, but decent enough. Both in the anxiety of, kind of getting ready in the preparations and making sure that you have everything ready to go ahead of time. But also in the travel, the journey itself, whether it's a car, or a plane, like I definitely get like a little bit of the anxiety around long distance travel. And so I love creating an herb sachet for the exact same reason that I created one when I was having my daughter. Because when I put all of these focused items together and I'm really, really intentional about that process and that intention and purpose as I'm creating the little pouch, when I need it and I go to reach for it later, I am just like immediately brought into that energy of that intention because I really thoughtfully took my time to craft it. And I let that moment be really lucid and be really, really present in the smells, the feel of the crystal or the feel of the bag and why I chose that bag. Sometimes the way that I tie off the bag is very slow and methodical and intentional. I just bring as much awareness and presence in the moment while I'm crafting it as possible. Because when I go to reach for it later, it is that much more effective and quick, honestly, that I am able to align with that energy, let go of any of the unnecessary around me, which is typically what I personally create a sachet for. It really helps me like hone in and align on a specific purpose or intention that this beautiful but simple little pouch represents. But I'll also bring this on I'll bring a little herb sachet to any significant event where I've got some nerves or I'm feeling some type of way about it. So I have made a little herb sachet before when I need to go into a really, really important meeting. When I need to have a really important but nerve-wracking conversation with somebody. So if I am going into some type of proposal or interview, those types of significant events where I really need to like call on some courage or let go of some fear. I find myself by default making an herb sachet more often than not. So let's give you a few examples so that you can run with this episode and get started for yourself. First, the enclosure or the pouch itself is probably the first step that we should think about before we even talk about the ingredients that go into it. You're going to hear time and time again that an herb sachet needs to be in like a cloth bag. And then you'll hear people go even further with that and be like, it needs to be organic cloth of some kind. Here's the deal. This is one of those things, slippery slope, dare I say, where we can start to get a little bit too hung up on the specifics and the details, and it keeps us from doing the ritual in the first place. Because if I don't have a bag or a pouch around the house that I can use because it doesn't fall into this criteria that I'm seeing, I'm putting it off because I need to remember to go get a bag. And then the chances of remembering to get the bag, and then once you do get the bag, make the damn thing, we're putting so many silly and unnecessary roadblocks in the way. There is something you already have around your house to use in a pinch if you need to. If you want to make a point and part of the ritual of like going out and seeking and purchasing little pouches to make herb sachets, by all means. One thing that I did many years ago was I was at like a local grocer and they had a little like 10 pack or 20 pack of little muslin cheesecloth tea bags. I knew that they would get used for herb sachets, so I bought that and I just kept that and I had them in that way. But I've also used things around my house many times. Number one, and I wish I had one literally right next to me, and of course I don't, but those little pouches that jewelry come in. Jewelry, beads, little trinkets, gifts that you're given. We get those little teeny tiny cloth drawstring gift bags all the time. They come in all kinds of different packaging. Sometimes they're like see-through and like really porous, or it's like mesh and almost like netting. Sometimes it's more of like velvet or some type of opaque fabric where you definitely can't see through it. It's not, there's no holes in it or anything like that. It might be like a velour looking or suede looking type little drawstring bag. Drawstring little pouches tend to be big favorites because of the convenience. It's basically it's a little pouch already. And the fact that it's a drawstring, it just makes it really easy to open and close, tie a knot, untie it. Very, very easy. Making your own drawstring pouch, big or small, is actually pretty easy. And there are tons of tutorials out there about how to sew and make your own. But there is even easier ways to make a little pouch that are definitely no sew options if you'd like. And one of them is going to be to just grab a piece of fabric of any kind. You can cut up an old sock or t-shirt or sheets that you're not using anymore or a towel. It's very easy for us to find scrap fabric around our house when we really, really look for it. And you just choose a size and a piece that's big and wide enough for what you need, place what you need inside of the fabric, and you just ball it up into a little pouch. And then you can get string or cord of some kind and tie it around the top. This is one of the easiest ways. We 99% of the time already have at least something or a couple of things lying around the house that we can use that'll at least tie to itself, or we can use an old shoestring or something like that. I mean, it's really easy to find stuff laying around. And if you find yourself like you are an herb sachet person, you love making magic little pouches, again, picking up or ordering like a little pack of pouches is something that myself and many other witches do because we know that they're going to get used. I use them not just for herb sachets for myself, but I gift them to others often. If I give somebody a crystal, I'll put that in there. If I give somebody a piece of jewelry, I'll put that in there. I'll make herb sachets as a gift for people. So I like to buy a little pack of them and have them on hand. I bought the little muslin cotton bags like I told you about that were made, basically, those were tea bags, so they were food safe. So I liked them because I could use them for herb sachets or for making my own tea blends. But I also ordered a pack of cute little drawstring bags that have like suns and moons on them. So the options are so endless, and you can really get into customizing and infusing your intention by selecting bags or pouches of certain colors. If you're making your own, you can draw different symbols, or you can use different colored markers on there to work with different color magic and color energy and the energy of the symbols or the words you write on there. There's so much you can do with just the pouch alone, honestly. So don't overthink the pouch like it needs to be perfect. But do get creative and do get resourceful. And my friend, this is your reminder that if it is just more realistic, sustainable, accessible, realistic for wherever you are in your life, wherever you're at, and you're making an herb sachet, it's okay to use a plastic bag. There is so much out there, so much just like hate and judgment, and in my opinion, like a lot of elitist-y, like privilege-y, ableist-y talk about how plastic is just like anti-magic in and of itself. And I just like I don't personally subscribe to that. There's lots of different reasons why people use plastic containers or utensils or bags or whatever it is. And I know that we as a human race have really abused plastics. Don't get me wrong. I get where the issue has come from. But I also don't think that automatically by using a plastic bag you're canceling out any magic. Some people say that magic that plastic can defeat the purpose in an herb sachet because you can't smell whatever's coming out of it. But I would argue that that really is only applicable if you're utilizing the herb sachet in some sort of aromatherapy type way. In fact, using a plastic bag can actually make the difference in someone being able to bring their herb sachet with them versus not because of that reason. So maybe you want to bring a little herb sachet that is really heavily scented or has really strong smelling herbs or oils in it, but you want to be able to bring it with you to your office or in your car, and you're going to be in a small space where that could draw attention to or even bother the people around you. That can trigger allergies and sensitivities and sensory issues for some people. Putting it in a plastic bag can help you contain the scent. And then when you're in a private, secluded area and you're able to, you can always like pop it open, and then it really preserves the aroma for you so that you have it anytime that you want to open it and experience it. But that can be a way to actually make an herb sachet even more travel friendly. So don't you subscribe either to this anti-plastic demonization crap at all. All right. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to give you 3 different examples to inspire you and get you started. So I want to take you through potentially making your own protection herb sachet, your own sachet for self-acceptance, and a sachet for helping keep an open mind. So we are joined by my very favorite, non-sponsored, but just really wonderful buddy, Llewellyn's complete book of correspondences. If you've been here before, if you've ever watched a single book recommendation I've ever done, you've probably heard me talk about this book. She's a beaut. She's got lots of markers. She's an oldie. She smells like incense. She's been with me through some shit. This is my holy grail in so many ways. So this is a comprehensive cross-referenced resource for pagans and Wiccans, according to the cover here. I would branch that out even further and just say witches and magical practitioners. The first section is all different types of intentions. So here we go. Issues, intentions, and powers. Acceptance, adaptability, the afterlife, balance, awareness, courage, control, guardian, guidance, honesty, to honor, longevity, light, limitations, boundaries. I could go on and on. And within each of those are different magical correspondences or magical associations, like the zodiac signs associated with that, the colors associated with that, the trees, the herbs, other plants, minerals, gemstones, gods, goddesses, animals, birds, reptiles, their days of the week, moon phases. And then once you get past that first section, there's another section for each one of those sections each one of those topics I just listed. So there's a whole chapter in here for plants and the mineral kingdom. And so I can go in here to the animal section. I can look up cattle or bobcat or camel, beaver, and look at the different gods, goddesses associated with that animal, different issues, intentions, powers associated with that animal. Again, zodiac signs, the element it might be associated with, the day of the week or the full moon it might be associated with, on and on and on. I could do a whole episode just taking you through the beauty of this book. This is where a lot starts for me because it's a wonderful jumping off point. It's just a great point of reference. This doesn't have to be by any means, and shouldn't be, your end all be all, but she'll get you started. She'll get you started. Okay, so let's talk about protection. I wanted to do a protection sachet because, let's be honest, I once again think that this is one of the most commonly sought after or reached for intentions or rituals of magic, is protecting ourselves, loved one, etc. So as you can imagine, because of that, the protection section in here is chunky. It's like 2.5 pages. Yeah, it is. It's 2.5 pages. This is all protection, and then it goes to another page. So I summed up some of the different magical correspondences, since there are 2.5 pages worth of them here. But if I were creating a protection herb sachet, I am going to grab for one or multiple of the following herbs: basil, cedar, cinnamon, clove, cumin, dandelion, dill, garlic, hot peppers, basically any variety, spearmint, spruce, valerian. That is the tip of the iceberg. Trust me, there's so much more than that. But those were the ones that jumped out at me, and most of my personal faves and go-tos when it comes to protection. Colors was hilarious. I purposefully listed all the colors that it had here to serve as an example. Colors associated with protection: black, blue, brown, gold, green, purple, red, silver, violet, white, yellow. And I added at the end there, I'm pretty sure it's all right to just go ahead and throw in orange and pink too. And then we're covering basically, essentially, protection, in my opinion, can be and is the full entire color spectrum. And it depends on the type of protection, who you are, what that color means and feels like to you. Don't get too hung up on color specifics when it comes to such big, broad, general intentions like protection. Think of and go toward colors that feel very protecting for you. That changes for me depending on where and when and why I'm calling on protection. My go-to for protection is definitely black, but I can see and have used many of these other colors as well. Crystals also totally lot associated with protection, obviously. I listed my favorites that are going to be among the most common and easy to find. So I purposefully didn't list any super rare crystals here because I wanted it to be as accessible and easy to find as possible, and affordable, quite honestly. Or you might already have one of these, even better. Agate, any type of agate, excellent for protection. Amethyst is a big one. Aquamarine and aventurine. Any type of calcite. People will argue over what color of calcite, but the truth is calcite's very protecting. Carnelian, diamonds for sure. And also zircon. And often zircon is used as diamond substitute, so I loved that. Hematite, jade, jasper for sure. Any type of jasper. Lepidolite, malachite, obsidian, and onyx. And tourmaline, the black stones, very popular and very powerful protectants. Petrified wood is another super big one. I love a good piece of petrified wood. And pretty much any quartz I listed. All quartzes, depending on, again, why you're reaching for protection, you're going to want really feel called to rose quartz specifically, for example. But if I had to pick of all quartz varieties, even above clear quartz, in the name of protection, I would probably grab smoky quartz. Smoky quartz is just known for not only being very protecting, but absorbing excess negative energies. Tiger's eye is another one. And metals and metallics are also very associated with protection, especially because of the concept of armor and shields and swords, and weaponry. So any type of metal as well is also very associated with protection. Now, as far as symbols or objects that are associated with protection, this is where you can start to have a lot of fun. We've got our generic ones. Pentacle, very commonly used for protection. The symbols for all 4 of the elements, as well as pyramids and circles, of course. So envisioning yourself inside of a pyramid, or think of a sacred protective circle that you draw. So drawing a circle or incorporating something that is circular, something that's in a pyramid shape in or on your herb sachet, you're bringing in the energy of the protection energy of that shape. But you can get even more creative here. So some different animal energy that are very associated with protection, both physical, mental, emotional, and psychic protection. Crows and ravens, big time. And then these ones make sense. Like we think of these as very powerful animals in the wild, but bears, wolves, scorpions, of course, sharks. I mean, you could really make a case for any type of animal that is any type of a predator. Or I also encourage you to look at the types of animals that have very unique and effective means and instincts for protecting themselves, whether that's animals with the ability to camouflage or shield themselves or are poisonous. Like, these are animals that wonderful to call on during a protection ritual. And again, you could just write the name of that animal on the sachet, or maybe you find a little tiny object of that animal that you could put in there. You can find a picture and print it off or cut it out and put it in there. You could draw one. There's so much there. While you're holding the sachet, you can call on the energy of bear protection to come to be invited into this sachet, so that wherever you carry it, you're protected by the energy of the bear. So lots you can do, and then you can keep going even more specific than this. And I encourage you to look for an item or object that you have that maybe was gifted to you by someone you associate with protection, or has protected you, or would protect you. This could also be an item that just in and of itself represents protection, like a little mini shield, or maybe there's a little token of like a knight with a little sword on a horse, a little sword itself. So it can be a little object that to you represents the energy of protection. And what you want to do is you want to cleanse the pouch, the fabric, the bag, whatever it is that you're going to use. Then you want to prepare it for holding all the items. So if you're going to draw on it, anything like that, you want to do that first. And then you want to mindfully put any objects that you're pulling from these different types of associations into the pouch really mindfully. Once again, the most effective thing you can do here is be as present in what you're doing as possible. The more lucid and vivid you make the experience for yourself, the more effectively and quickly you will snap back to that state of mind and to that energy vibration later when you need it, when you give that sachet a little tug or a little shake, or you grab it to make sure that it's near you. It will bring you even more quickly and effectively into that energy if you take the time and patience and intention while you're making it to really, really crystallize the awareness and presence for yourself in that moment. Once you have filled it, you want to close it in a way, it might sound a little silly, but you want to close it in a way that makes sense for you and your intention. So sometimes I tie something in a nice, neat, tidy, loving bow. It looks nice. It represents this nice, neat, Sometimes I wrap the shit out of a herb sachet because I'm really holding something in there. I really don't want it leaking out or getting out. Sometimes I don't tie a knot at all, representing that it's closed but kind of porous at the same time. So even just the part of closing up the pouch, let that also have some intention as well. Maybe if you're using a piece of string or cord, the amount of times you wrap it around could be an intentional number that you use. The amount of times you tie an actual knot could be an intentional number. Maybe the color of string or cord that you choose is specific. Maybe you choose a black bag, but you choose a gold cord to wrap it in. So you can get really, really intentional. And then as far as what to do with it, we will get there at the very end here. So examples for self-acceptance herb sachet. Here's what I did. I went to 2 different sections here in Llewellyn's book of correspondences. First, I went to acceptance. I was like, I wonder if acceptance is in here. It is. It's got a nice little shorty section in here. But I also went to the section called self-work, which I have a couple of notes on in a second. But first, some ideas and inspiration for cultivating, extending acceptance. The herbs, I love this. It's very, very specific and short. The herbs, plants, trees, or miscellaneous, plants, associated with acceptance are angelica, catnip, clover, cypress, iris, and mustard. Really fascinating. I love it when it's a really short, tight list like that. Sometimes when it's like that, I will go on a whole extra rabbit hole, and one or a couple of those herbs or plants will like catch my eye, and I'll go research why and properties and metaphysical energies and traditions associated with it, and kind of figure out why it's associated with acceptance. So that's something else that I love that this book inspires me to do. I thought this was really fascinating, though, and I had to share this with you. Under goddesses and gods, all 3, Persephone, Hades, and Demeter, are all associated with acceptance. And I find this fascinating. And if you don't already know the mythology with Hades, Persephone, and Demeter, to really rush through it and water it down, Hades takes Persephone to the underworld. Demeter, going crazy looking for her missing daughter, realizes that she's in the underworld, and when she does, and Zeus and the gods don't do anything to bring her back, she withdraws her gifts from the earth and the humans begin dying, because Demeter is the goddess of grain and agriculture and abundance of the earth. And so all the plants and food sources, everything starts, life on earth as we know it starts dying, and human race starts dying as well. And so to appease Demeter, a deal is struck. Since Persephone has eaten food, the pomegranate seeds of the underworld, she's not allowed to permanently leave, but stuck with essentially between a rock and a hard place here. Zeus basically strikes a deal that says Persephone will spend part of the year in the underworld and the other part of the year up on Earth and in Mount Olympus, so that she can still continue to be goddess of spring, but she will also simultaneously be queen of the underworld. And this is a mythology, one of the stories that explains or relates to our Earth seasons, because when Persephone is in the underworld, this is fall and winter. Demeter is in mourning of not having her daughter, and she withdraws all her gifts from the earth, and we have the fall and winter seasons. And when Persephone comes back up from the underworld, there's this big celebration. She brings spring. Demeter bestows all of her gifts, and we have spring and summer. I thought it was really cool that the 3 of them were listed under acceptance. I work personally very frequently. I'm a devotee of both Persephone and Hades. I thought that it was really cool that their mythology is clearly associated with the energy of acceptance, because that does end up being this really big takeaway from the mythology, is this overarching theme of acceptance, which I just thought was really, really cool. Some crystals that are really common, you might already have, that are associated with acceptance are angelite, which angelite was the only crystal listed as specifically being associated with self-acceptance, our specific intention here. But also Larimar, rose quartz, tiger's eye, tourmaline, and that zircon again. All of these are associated with acceptance here. And then I thought, really cool, the two animals that are listed are coyote and wolf. And I thought that was really, really fascinating energy to be associated with acceptance, especially when we think about the relationship between wolves, coyotes, canines, and the moon, and cycles, and pack mentality and energy and their life cycles. I thought that was absolutely beautiful. Now, once I was under the self-work section, here's what was cool. I could totally list for you all these different things associated with self-work. And they definitely have, a purpose and a reason why they're listed in working with the self. But if you go through each section, you notice that they're pretty broad and lots of different choices are listed under many of the different sections or subjects here within the self-work portion. Self-work, to really create an herb sachet for self-acceptance, I recommend pulling from associations and correspondences that are connected to acceptance, and then put a little bit of yourself in there. Something like that has to do with your favorite color, or a favorite symbol of yours, or a favorite crystal of yours, or a favorite smell of yours, a favorite object or shape. There's a lot of different ways you can incorporate yourself. A little picture of yourself at a certain time. Maybe an inner child picture, inner teenager. Maybe it's a little drawing of yourself, how you see yourself, a word you're using to associate yourself with, your name or your middle name or another name that you've given yourself that really represents you. There's lots of ways you can incorporate self. So I highly recommend pulling from some inspiration from the acceptance here, which colors associated with acceptance are black, green, and pink, which I thought was very cool, very earthy, very grounding, very associated with like heart. And some of those different associations, and then infuse those with little aspects or objects or items that represent you and yourself. All right. Now, for our last herb sachet, to keep an open mind. This was cool. I went looking through here. First, I looked for a section. I was like, is there a section in here for just opening? There's not. I think that the reason there's not a section in here for opening in general, because they're probably staying away from people accidentally opening a portal or opening themselves up when they're not ready. I think that it made sense because I was expecting to find it in here. I was like, that's a general enough opening, road opener, mind opening, opening your third eye. That's something that's going to be in here. We're going to find the issue or the intention or power of opening. And it wasn't in here, which was fascinating. But there is a whole section, a very stacked section called the mind. And there are multiple subsections within here. Fascinating. So for example, having an alert mind, a calm, peaceful mind, clearing the mind, promoting logic in the mind, opening in the mind is on here, having peace of mind, having a quick mind, quieting the mind, and soothing the mind were all of the different subsections. Fascinating. I love when a section in here has subsections and I can visually kind of compare and contrast any differences between the sections and any overlaps. So if there is a type of crystal that is associated with quickening the mind and soothing the mind, I like finding the differences and the similarities that this cross reference offers. It's amazing. Now, when it comes to the mind, you want to think clarifying first. Clear anything. Clear quartz, clear calcite, any type of stone that is see-through. Glass itself is often very successfully used in rituals that are representative of clearing the mind or clearing brain fog. This is often the first step in opening or keeping our mind open, is something associated with clarity and clear. This might be a nice time to use a clear or see-through pouch, for example, for your herb sachet. That could be plastic. That could just be net or mesh so you can see through it. But keep that piece in mind, like that clear, that visual, that see-through. That might be something that you're pulling for here when we're looking for keeping the mind open. Also, the mint family is very often associated with focus and clear, sharp mind as well. Mint is very powerful in purification and cleansing. So I think that's really where it comes from in the mental sphere as well. So I think that anyone in the mint family would be very welcome. And this is peppermint, spearmint, but also catnip and lemon balm are both also in the mint family as well. So you can look into plant families and see what branches off. Now, this listed mushroom, for example, and I don't know exactly when this was published, but fungi and what is the word? Mycelium, studying mycelium network, studying the studies of mushroom, fungi species, and foraging and the different effects on our nervous system and our mind. There are so many different species. So just listing mushroom is a little bit boldly broad here. But if you are a person that already works with mushroom varieties, I would not say that, how am I trying to word this? I would say that you're onto something there. You're already working with mind clarifying type energy by working with different species of mushrooms. So I would not steer you away. That's what I was trying to say. I would not steer you away from using mushrooms in an opening of the mind herb sachet. Now, lots associated with that I wasn't surprised. So ginseng, for example, very, very popular in energizing drinks and food. So any type of plant or botanical that's supposed to like give us energy or wake us up as like a stimulant, that can definitely be used in mental clarity, mind opening type of rituals. But when I would make something that's like for maintaining an open mind, I am going to incorporate herbs or items that really represent like my brain, that I associate with my mentality. And then while I'm creating and crafting and packing this herb sachet, I am going to be envisioning opening, like seeing paths open, blockages lifted, pathways cleared. I'm going to be really in that type of energy while I'm crafting it. And then when I go to close that sachet, that's probably one that I wouldn't seal off. That's probably one of those porous ones where I technically close it so it doesn't spill, but it's also not closed off either and it remains open. That's something I would intentionally do. Now, what to do with an herb sachet or the little pouch of magic after you have actually made it? Um, there's so many things. You can keep it in your bra, you can keep it in your pocket, you can keep it in your purse or your bag or your suitcase. You can keep it in your car, hanging from your mirror in your console or in your cup holder. There are so many things and little places you can stash an herb sachet. Now, depending on the purpose of it, is how you can help decide where and what to do with it. Sometimes I want it very, very easily accessible so I can grab it, feel it, smell it, look at it, etc. Sometimes I want it to just bring that energy that I have infused it with to wherever I'm planting it. And it doesn't need to be, I don't have to be able to grab it or access it very easily. And it can be harder to reach or out of sight, out of mind, so to speak, as well. So you really just want to keep that in mind. An herb sachet is done and has served its purpose when it feels that way. That's another one of those things that might sound a little silly, but it's true. If it feels like it's kind of like a dud and it's like dull and it's not really got some, you don't feel like the spark in here associated with it, it's probably done and it's okay to lay it to rest. And the way to lay it to rest is disposing of anything that is disposable. If I have dried herbs in there, I'll either scatter them out my back door or scatter them out my front door. If it's crystals I've kept in there for some time, I'll take them out, I'll cleanse them, I'll put them away, or I'll use them somewhere else. And same thing with any little objects that are in there. The little pouch, it depends. Sometimes I'll cleanse the pouch and just put it away so I can use it for something else later on. Sometimes the pouch itself needs to be laid to rest and I release it of its use and its purpose and I discard it. So what you do with it really depends on why you made it. So you want it to be either accessible to you in an easy way, or you want it in an area most closely associated with that intention. And then as far as how long it lasts, you will be able to tell. We have an herb sachet that will never go bad, so to speak, because that's not really the purpose of it. It's a Yule herb sachet that I made many, many years ago. It was one of the first that I ever made. And the energy it carries in and of itself is this energy of tradition and time passing, and timelessness in so many ways. It's not about that sachet going bad or getting dull. The fact that it exists, that it's still in its same enclosure, that I pull it out every Yule and Christmas, that I hang it up in the same spot, or I just hang it up and display it in general each year during that time. That's the ritual. And that's what it's representative of in and of itself. And so it can't, you see what I'm saying? It can't really go bad, if you will. It's not about that. The longer time goes on and we continue using it, it's fulfilling that purpose. If it ever was broken or ripped or misplaced, something compromised it, I would trust that it served its purpose. And you can apply this same meaning if you lose a crystal or you break it, or an object you lose or break or get stolen from you. You can mourn the object, have the grieving period, because it's okay to be sad that it broke or that you don't have it anymore. And then really the witchy earth energy thing to do is to practice that trust and non-attachment, and that it means that it served its time with you and that it was time to move forward and create room for a different object or ritual in your life. A different herb sachet, if you will eventually take its place. So I hope that this was helpful. This is one of my favorite forms of simple magic. And it is in and of itself very simple, but very, very powerful and so customizable, so flippin' easy. And there's just so much so much that you can do with it. I hope that this episode was inspiring and informative, and you can't wait to go get started yourself. Let me know in the comments below if you already use herb sachets in your practice, if you have any questions for me moving forward. If you want more episodes like this, of course, I am just right next door and always here for a little witchy chat, my friend. So thank you for your time today and everyday neighbor. It means so, so much to me. I will see you next time on That Witch Podcast. Make sure until then you stay safe, you keep having fun, and of course, stay magical out there.